All right, I'll just get started. Let me make a recording. I think we probably can put this online somewhere. Well, that worked great. So I'm gonna make a last try. Dum, 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 dum. Okay, am I still alive? Yes, I am. Excellent. All right. Good evening, everyone.
Hi.
Yeah, Margita?
Nothing. I was just saying hi. Sorry for interrupting you.
All right. So for the ones who don't know me, I'm Gilles, and I'm here actually to motivate you to run for the European elections. In less than a year, we will already have a new parliament, and I want to contribute to the preparations by informing all potential candidates about what it means to be an MEP and reminding everyone why this is the most important election for us, and we should give it our all. My goal is that for the first time we have not a national delegation in the EP, but a pirate delegation in the European Parliament. So several pirates from several countries. I've been heading the office of our parliamentarian since the beginning. That was 2014. So I've gathered a few insights I want to share with you on why this election is so important, what an MEP does, and who should run for parliament. Here they are. Why? Why is this election so important? There are two reasons. Let me detail this for you. First, nowhere can we have a bigger impact on people's lives. Our topics of democracy, transparency, internet regulation, copyright, digital services, data protection, more broadly, anything regarding the digital revolution are all debated at that level. On the other hand, also, we can achieve changes through good initiatives and cross-party coalitions. At this level, we can actually achieve changes. I'm going to give you a few examples. On transparency, we created the open source software Lobbycal, making it possible for anyone to easily publish the lobby meetings. And on top of that, we got the Green Group to finance the development. So that's a very good example. Just for reminders, like Julia is the only one out of 751, the only pirate. Nevertheless, we were able to create a software making it easy not only to publish our meetings, but also to tell other parliamentarians anywhere actually in the world, oh, so you don't publish your lobby meetings? Why? It's so easy. There's a free software solution for that. And it came to be because, yes, we had the ID, but our alliances are so strong that we were able to get the Green Group to spend money for the development. So that's one ID from one office that brings real changes to the whole of society. Another example on free software. We got the parliament to endorse amending the budget to invest into auditing open source software. So like we got the whole of the parliament to amend the budget to the whole EU to set aside 1 million to audit open source software. That was the first year. The second year it was 2.6 million. So again, we have one ID from one office that brings real change to the whole of society. Last but not least, on copyright, this is our main topic. We drafted the first report on copyright of the mandate, mentioning users' rights for the very first time in such a document. Like the very idea that users have rights had never occurred to a legislative body before. This is a great change by pirates. That's the first part. We can change things. And the second part of why this election is so important is it is our greatest chance yet. There is yet no threshold for the election this time around in Germany, and chances are good it will stay that way. The Czech pirates are the third strongest party in the Czech Republic, looking to gain 2 to 5 seats, depending on how hopeful you are, in 2019. The Czech are also actively helping the Slovak, registering their party so they can run to the election. The successes of the Czech Republic have put the pirates on the map in Slovakia too, so it sounds good. I'm also hearing positive things from Slovenia. I hope more of these examples will happen until the elections. So this is why this is the most worthwhile electoral endeavor we can undertake and the most meaningful use of our time. Now I've mentioned the why. Let me give you the what. What does an MEP do? So I'm going to use a nautical metaphor. An MEP steers a ship, sets a course, and manages a crew. I'm going to put this into two categories, political and practical. On the political side, an MEP focuses on specific topics. I can only recommend this. It enables you to sharpen your profile, to be recognizable, to have a clear role within the house. In turn, this will enable you to build alliances within a political group. This is crucial to have impact. Being in a group gives you more money for actions, for public communication. It also means you have more weight, you have access to files, you have people behind you that will vote as you say they should most of the times if you're in the good group. And being recognized within that group will mean that this will work, that your peer within the group will direct to you if people have questions, if journalists ask them questions on file that you handle and that they don't know much about. It will mean that they will vote as you tell them to. It will mean that they will help you to organize conferences and events. So it's immensely useful. Also, having a clear profile within the house will make it possible to build alliances across group. So this feels very specific to the European Parliament, which is one of the reasons why it's so good to have pirates in there. It's because one of the reasons you can be effective even if you're a member of a small party is that we don't have a government. So there is no real clear-cut opposition. So the let's say the tendency of all MEPs to work with their peers also in other groups, in other parties, is way higher than in a classical national house, where the parties supporting the government will be on one side and the opposition on the other. So building alliances across group and having support from your peers from other groups on files that are important to you is actually possible. especially if you have a clear profile and are recognized as an expert for your topics. To achieve this, you will attend a lot of meetings. You will need to be able to reach compromises. You will have to explain again and again the same things to people who actually don't understand what their own positions means. Like, many MEPs work on files that they don't understand, especially in our topics. We do see it a lot on copyright and internet regulation. The MEPs, the parliamentarians, say what their advisors or assistants tell them, but they don't actually necessarily understand it. I mean, I'm talking about simple stuff here. I'm talking about, like, why is geo-blocking a problem? Or are filters bad? Is filtering everything we upload a bad idea? I mean, these are things you don't have to explain to a parrot. But it seems these are things a parrot needs to explain to a lot of people. Another thing you will need to do is communicate, obviously. So you want to communicate about your positions and who supports them to your peers in your group, so that they know they understand what you're saying, what you're talking about, and why it is important. But also within the House, and even further. If you remember, the EU works that way, that the Commission makes a proposal, which is then debated in the Council and in the Parliament. This means that if you want your file to be successful, you need to get your majorities in the Parliament, but you also need to lobby the Council. So you need to take the debate to the member states, because this is where people will be able to influence their government, which means in turn influence the Council. So you need to radiate way further than just Brussels or your member state. And then you need to reach out to civil society, especially in our case, because we don't necessarily have the industry on our side on many topics. So we need the civil society users, representatives, or like consumers, unions. We have at the moment librarians on our sides, archivists, researchers. You need these people, you need them to be vocal, so that they come to Brussels, that they go to see your colleagues and they talk to them, so that next time you're in a meeting with these same colleagues and you use the same arguments that have been used by a respected researcher, for example, then the colleagues realize, oh, it's not a crazy idea by the pirates, it's actually something worth listening to. So that's on the political side. On the practical side, you will travel to a lot of conferences, so I do hope you have a travel bug, because you won't stop doing it. A lot of traveling, not only the conferences, but there's like a week a month is in Strasbourg. You may have heard of this, 2 seats. Maybe you will want to go home at some point in time, so a lot of traveling involved. Also, you will have responsibility. You will manage a team and manage budgets, or you have someone do it. So I am the head of office for Julia, which means I manage these things. But regardless of whether you hire someone to manage them, still you hire people and you are given money. So in the end, both are then your responsibility as an MEP. That was the what. Now let's look at the who. According to my experience, people should put forward their candidacy if they work on topics that are discussed at EU level. For example, I know there are a lot of pirates working on social issues, but these are in the hands of the member states. So sending talented pirates to Brussels, to the European Parliament, would be a waste of resources. It would be bad, because they wouldn't be able to achieve much. But like, as I said, all our core topics are debated here, so I'm hopeful we will have great candidates all over Europe. then not only topics that are discussed at EU level are important, but topics that are clearly associated with the pirates. The reason I say this is because if your main topic is not something that is associated with the pirates, then you are going to be in a competition with many other parties. Like, for example, nobody wants our opinion on the economy because so many parties are doing stuff on this. But if there's a computer in there somewhere, then people will call us. Members from other parties, if it's about the internet, data protection, copyright, of course, transparency works as well, democracy, then people turn to us from their own. This is a huge bonus. It magnifies your effectiveness in the parliament. Another thing you should be able to do is to work with people in the long term. You need to be able to lead a team. These are 5 years you will be spending here, and there is a high added value to keeping your team together during those 5 years, because their network will expand, their effectiveness will grow. So it's really worth the effort, but it's not easy. Burnout is not a myth here. I see people coming and going. Being good with people also means being able to build relationships with other MEPs or with stakeholders, NGOs, journalists, all those people whose support you will need for your campaigning. Especially for us pirates, because most probably we will not be the biggest party in the house. I mean, it would be lovely, but I'm afraid that won't happen. So we need support from outside. And all of this you need to achieve in an intercultural, multilingual setting. So you need to be able to cope with the fact that people don't think the way you are, not only on a political level, but also on a more, like, let's say, cultural level. Also, being able to speak many languages is an asset. I do see MEPs that have a reduced reach or effectiveness on account of the lack of language skills or their capacity for adaptation. This does make a difference. Also, you should be willing to leave everything behind and serve the cause. May sound harsh, but it's a great thing to do. It's a great adventure and it's fantastic. But you should expect loss of contact with friends and family. It is a very intense rhythm we have here, and you will scarcely have time for anything else. Actually, we have a former MEP in the Pirate Party, and she warned me about this in 2014, and I can only tell you she was absolutely right. These were my recommendations on who. To finish, I want to repeat that this is a great opportunity. This is really the best thing we can do. We should tackle this with all our energy. We should get elected, and we should get in here and change things. I'll be taking your questions now.
I had a question. When we have like 5 pirate seats, is there a possibility of having an advantage when we all 5 the seats go in different fractions, so we do the same job for this fraction in a specific working group?
You mean to basically make a point of it, of going to several fractions and then trying to network and work together nevertheless? Is that correct?
Yes. So you have 5 fractions. Every pirate goes in a different fraction, and they try to get the same working job in Brussels. So they're sitting in the same group for work. So they have a more majority vote in there. Or are there any possibilities getting that advantage?
It might backfire because how do you say, the group doesn't have an obligation to follow you. You need to earn that. So the groups have different philosophies about working together. Like, for example, the group of the Nordic left is not really voting together or paying any attention to it. The group of the liberals is much more strongly voting as one, like as do the Greens. So it's very different. And if you are recognized as the oddball, as someone who does not really accept the group's philosophy because they all have, let's say, general lines of policy. So if you do whatever, the people won't follow you. If it goes extreme, they will kick you out, but that's really an extreme case. So you could try to do this, but I think you would have more advantage to be in one group and then influence that group more, like being just more important. So if we have 5 pirates next time, let's say 5, I think it would be better to be more important in one group than to spread the forces. But this hasn't been tried before, so.
Okay. I was just a question. I was thinking about the tactic, what we actually have to, how we go in this time if we have more seats. Like what possibilities are there?
No, it might be an idea, but I think there is really an added value to being seen as reliable, as a good partner by your group. It will get you more votes and more influence.
I was thinking they've just started this European project for digital education, I think. Just started 2018, so it'll be 2019, it'll be started up, and it's planned for a long time. If we get into digital, if we get all the digital seats in different factions, it could be an advantage for us, because we do have the know-how and the experts to say in every for every fraction the same thing and repeat ourselves, so it gets better known. That was my actually base idea from it.
We'll see. It will also depend on who the individuals are, because I mean, if we have, let's say, 5 pirates, I guess they will all have their very special focus, and anyway, they're free to do what they want. That's the whole principle of being a parliamentarian. But also, I think it's very a very good thing or very good recommendation that they also should do what motivates them most, because it's a very intense job, and doing it without doing what you want to do, I think it's, wow, that would be a challenge. Do we have more questions? Do we have more people that are maybe running for or intend to run for the elections, or are thinking of running?
Well, I might want to ask something. Sorry. For how long do you actually need to be in Brussels or Strasbourg? I mean MEP, not assistants, but like the least amount of time you really have to be there, or something like that, for your job to be good.
Yeah. So for your job to be good is like the kind of the relevant part in the sentence here, because you have to be here to do the job at all, and as I understand it, from Monday noon to Thursday afternoon something. So that's the bare minimum. And that applies to 2 weeks a month in Brussels, 1 week a month in Brussels. The last week is a so-called Green Week. It's a constituency week. So you like for the big parties, they have specifically requested them. So they use these in theory to go back to their constituency. Obviously, this only works if you're a big party, because then you can cut up the territory, or if you've come from a small country. But for Germany, if you like us from Germany, like 1 pirate, when we consider our constituency to be Europe anyways, but even if we did focus on Germany, this is way too big for one single person. So we do use this week that doesn't have appointments as a regular work week, and we do the catch up on everything that has been left out during the other weeks. But if you want to try and stay at home, like in your member state, and only come for work, the bare minimum is arriving Monday noon, leaving in the afternoon of Thursday, 3 weeks a month, and then 1 week home. That would be what some MEP are doing.
Okay, thank you very much. That's helpful, at least for me, because I'm exactly the person that's not sure if can leave everything behind, as you put it.
It is a challenge. I mean, we've all, like in the office, we've all done it, and Julia now has also moved over here because there's so much to do. It's really hard, but it is possible.
Thank you.
More questions? I see Tony over there. Aren't you running? Oh, we have Cadet Blue. Sorry, yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so
now I can't hear you, or we can't hear you.
So are you aware of the working groups arranged by PPEU?
Which one?
For a common electoral election program.
Absolutely.
Okay, so what are your thoughts on what it should look like, or what we should be focusing on, and how plausible it is to? I mean, it's a very scattered effort based on what I can tell. So.
Okay. I think I'm gonna mention. Well, I'm gonna link this to what actually happens in the parliament. So, a common program electoral platform, especially a focused one like we had this time around, because it was focusing very much on the core topics, is actually helpful because it can serve as an orientation. Like if you want to justify what you do, you can say, well, this is the platform I was elected on. So this is useful on a if I see this apart from the job. I think it's also useful for the campaign, like to bring people together during the campaign, like to network the pirate parties all over Europe. Whether or not the national parties use it as a platform for their national campaign, that's another story entirely. Sadly, the elections are still very much a national affair. So I think this is going to be very different from case to case. Some member states, like some pirate parties, will be very happy to have this and to use it. Others will see this less relevant because, let's say, for example, we have a common election program that is focused on the core topics. And for example, I know that in Czechoslovakia, the fight against corruption is very important. I don't know if this will make it in the common election platform. Still, it would be a bad idea for the Czech not to campaign on this. So I don't think I can make a recommendation here. What I can say is I wouldn't exaggerate the importance, but it has a relevance. We have used it in the past to say, well, this is why we do what we do. So it's not it's not a loss of time, but I would personally recommend to focus on things very piratey. But that's just a recommendation from my side.
All right, thank you.
Do we have more people?
Yeah. If there are more seats in the parliament this time, and we could actually sort of say we'll have 5 seats, and can we do a sort of coordination team beforehand? So all 5 seats are have simple tasks. So it's not done 5 times the same shit, and it's done centrally for all 5. Could we coordinate that beforehand with your experience, say what tasks could be put in this group?
No, this really happens after the election. So what you do, like every national party campaigns very hard, tries to get in, and once this has happened, then you see what you have and how you make the best with it. So really, every national party campaigns according to their own identity, and then we see, because the thing is, we've just mentioned the program, but really, at least as relevant, if not more relevant, for the work we will be able to do will be the individuals. Like how, with whom do they want to work? On which topic? Do they agree on splitting the job? Do they agree on going to the same political group? Let's say, for example, the Czech want to go to the Greens, and I don't know, somebody else wants to go to the Liberals or whatever. So it's very hard to plan ahead with that. And obviously, we can't coordinate the choice of candidates on a European level. We're not that far. Every national party will have their own selection process. So no, I think it's that's what I meant when I said having the work on the common election program is a good occasion. It's a good networking tool to give the opportunity to people and candidates to grow closer to each other, so that to make the transition smoother. So like when we do get, like, say, 5 pirates in, that we don't first then discover issues, that we maybe have had time to talk about them and to discuss. So I think that is an excellent role for the working group, to trade ideas and see what how they resonate in different countries. But planning ahead who will do what is nigh impossible, because you really don't know until after the elections what happens.
I wasn't talking about the know-how from the individuality. I just meant the whole group to coordinate all 5 MEPs. So like behind the scenes, the logistic between it. So if you're having let's say you want to have a portal so you can message all European pirates, and you have one person sending information, so we have more transparency, and maybe also a direct democracy possibility to we could ask questions and have feedback from the all European pirates, and have this coordinated. And it's like a coordination group, an org group. It's sitting by. Maybe it will be a PPU working group. It's not directly in the European Parliament, but they're very closely connected to it, and we inform all pirates in Europe what's going on, because I think the last 2 times it was only direct subjects, and I think it's more important to actually pass this information on to every pirate who shows interest. You know?
Yes, but you have to realize, so that there is one thing that you can't do. So a parliamentarian does talk directly to citizens, not through a party. This is very important for several reasons. One is the so-called freedom of the mandate, and the second is, as a parliamentarian, you do have like employees and budgets for your communication and stuff like that, but none of this should go to finance or cross-finance the party.
No, it would be completely open for anyone who has interest as well, but mostly the pirates would have interest in it. So would be the
Yeah, but I know
coordination.
what I mean is we can't, like, if the parties either as PPU or as national instances want to communicate on stuff, we can't be doing the job for like from the parliament. We can't be doing that job. We can only communicate on what we do. And of course, that would be the advantage if we had one delegation. Then that's true, and many of the delegations do that. We can pool resources. For example, instead of having 5 different websites, we could have one website with everything on it as a delegation.
That's the sort of thing I meant.
Yeah, that's exactly. Absolutely possible.
Centralized resources, centralized resources, and things.
Absolutely, like many tasks that you don't need to do 5 times. You could centralize communications. You could centralize some of the things I do, like managing resources, for example. Yeah, that is absolutely possible. MEPs have the possibility to hire people in common. So, for example, 5 people say we do a so-called grouping, and instead of hiring one person, well, 5 times one person, we hire one person paid by 5 people. That works.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point of view as well. Yeah, perfect.
So I might have missed something, but was the estimate of like 5 pirates based on something, or I mean the Czech 2 or 3, but the rest?
So we hope for at least 1 German. We hope for, yes, maybe 3 Czech. That would be 4. And maybe someone from Slovakia. So,
Right.
What about Holland?
I'm not sure. I haven't heard.
We did quite a good national campaign last time. They were very close and national, and the hurdles on EU are lower now.
That would be great. But so I'm really looking forward to what happens. I mean, we're fairly early. Also, remember, in the whole process. So not everybody is thinking about this thing right now. I mean, even the Czech pirates have municipal elections coming up, which are going to bind their forces. So I'm pretty sure not all of the pirate parties have woken up to the fact that we have EU elections in a year. So I do hope we will have more good news. But to answer your question, there is no hard evidence to the number of 5.
Okay, good. Yeah, we're on it at the moment. We're coordinating in the background and getting ready. So we will be better prepared this time, I think.
Sounds good. Any more questions on the team, on how, I don't know, the offices, or how the day is organized, or anything you'd want to know? I'm going to talk a little bit about the team, maybe to give you ideas. Something I explain a lot to visitors group, like how many are we? We've managed to, let's say, push the walls back and have a very big team. We have probably one of the biggest teams in the house. How did we do this? First, we have as many assistants in Brussels as we can, and the absolute maximum number is 4. Then we also have local assistants working from Berlin. So that's an advantage as a pirate. You're very well connected. You're used to working online, so that works very well. And plus, we tend to have a trainee more often than not. So if you add the MEP, that makes 8 persons. One MEP, 4 assistants in Brussels, 2 in Berlin, 1 trainee. We have also very specialized roles in the team, like people doing communications, people doing policy work, people doing organizational stuff. So we organize kind of like a small company. Please note that this is not mandatory at all. The MEP is absolutely free of hiring people like he or she wants as many of them as he has room for in the parliament, with a maximum number of 4, and as many of them as he has money for in the member state. So you have a fixed budget, and you can, I mean, it's a bit hard for Germany because, like, you know, you pay people more, but in member states where you pay people less, let's say, some MEPs have bigger teams. Although sometimes, depending on the party, you really wonder if these people are really working for the European Parliament, but that's another issue. So what I wanted to say is, this is how we do it. Clear structure and like compartmentalized roles, but also know some offices where everybody is doing legislative work and communication at the same time, and organizational, so more being able to switch. So it's a matter of taste, a matter of organization, a matter of decision by the MEP, how he leads his or her team. But that's how we do it. Any questions for people that would be wanting to go for being an assistant? Maketa, you wanted to say something?
Well, I pushed the button coincidentally, but possibly, yeah. Well, I actually have a lot of questions, but I'm not sure which one will be
Go ahead.
helpful right now. Or, yeah, maybe I will start with a question whether it is actually possible for some people to go there. I mean, like right now, it's not a general question, and spend maybe a day with you or 2 and see how it's really working, so that they know what they are getting into and stuff like that, and maybe then transfer it personally to other people in our country or any country that goes there.
Absolutely, absolutely. I can only recommend this. So especially once you have your lists, but also before, if for people who are thinking about it and want to make sure it's something that appeals to them, absolutely. You can just contact me and we'll make it happen. So we can do a few days, depending on how much you can do and depending on at what time you can do it. It could be a week. We'll make it work.
Thank you. And if I understood correctly, you say that the best number of assistants is 4?
Not the best, but the max you can have in Brussels. So you have a limitation from the side of the administration. Basically, they tell you can have 3, and if you ask nicely, you can have 4, but that's it. These are called the accredited assistants. These are the ones in Brussels. And from the same budget you are paying these people, you can also pay either service providers or local assistants. Local assistants are people working in your member states. They could be in your hometown, they could be in the capital, that's entirely up to you, but they are paid from the same budget as the one in Brussels. And there is no limitation on how many of them you have, but the budget is the same. So at some point, the budget runs out.
So you could do like 3 assistants, and the 4th assistant budget you could split for home office workers to support you who work normal, and in the evening they do
no, you can do more. You can do 4 assistants in Brussels, and like we do have 4 assistants in Brussels and 2 in Berlin.
I'm thinking of doing lots of getting a lot of really people with know-how on the home office effects, so they can work on the evening. Like they've been doing voluntary work for years now, and Ehrenamt and things, and they're used to working evenings anyway. But they have a lot of expertise, and I would like to build quite a big home office team up to support the seat.
It would be in theory possible. I'm not sure it would work for the following reason, is that the people that are working, let's say, far away, so local assistants, unless they do really, constituency work, like having an open office where people can walk in and see your merchandise and inform themselves, stuff like that, which obviously needs to be, local. The other thing they can do is work that is not legislative. So if you're working on content, on legislative proposals, you will need to be in Brussels and Strasbourg very, very often, so that it barely makes any sense not to be an accredited assistant. The things you can do as a local are really things that could be asynchronous. So if it's like research work, for example, this could be, it doesn't really matter much if it's at night or during the day, but also there I'm not sure it would work, because the pace is so fast that it will be quite a problem for the MEP to ask you a question during the day and then you reply during the evening and then he gets the answer the next day and stuff like that. So the working all of us at the same time is also quite important.
May I ask, what about trainees?
So trainees is a bit like local assistants. You can have as many as you want, as long as you know what to put them and you have the money for them. So there is no obligation to pay trainees unless you take trainees in your home country. Then you have the obligations that apply to trainees in your home country, whatever they are. But if you have them in Brussels, then there is no obligation. There is an advantage to having them in Brussels, is that you basically don't pay any kind of taxes or whatever on the money you give them. So basically you're able to give them more. You spend the same money, but all the money goes to them, instead of, if you're doing your home country, you will obviously have to also pay taxes and whatever you pay as an employer.
Thank you.
But there is absolute freedom on what you have them do and on where they can work. You have basically 3 places of work for your trainees. That would be Brussels, Strasbourg, or the home country.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome to ask more questions, because you said you had many.
No, actually, I think I'd ask them when I come to Brussels, or ask them. I pretty much need to see it, or need. Your speech and information were really helpful, and I learned a lot today, actually. But still, as far as the whole process or how a typical day looks like, right? I'm not sure if it's transferable just via speaking on a Mumble, or is it?
Well, I can try. I can try, and then you're still welcome to come, but I can try. So a typical day is actually not feasible, because that doesn't exactly exist. What you have is a typical month. I already mentioned that there are different weeks. So there are weeks with mainly committee meetings. Then there are weeks with mainly group meetings. So the political groups will have meetings. Then there are plenary weeks where not everyone, but most people go to Strasbourg, and then you have all kind of meetings plus the votes in plenary. And then you have the so-called green weeks, which are the constituency weeks. So if we take all of those, well, obviously, it's meetings. But what differences do you have? So easy, the green week, constituency week, for us, it's supposedly a more quiet week, because there are no planned meetings, no committee meetings, no nothing like that. So we use it to prepare stuff for the coming weeks. We use it to prepare events, to prepare communication. So this would be more regular days. In general, you can consider that the workday starts around 9. This is very different from offices to offices, but the day starts to heat up at 10. So if you don't want to arrive and already everything is boiling, then you should be there earlier. Then your days will be long if you do policy work. So if you do policy work, some of the meetings go quite late. You may have heard of something called trialogues, which is when the parliament sits down with the commission and the council to try and find an agreement on a text. These start in the evening, like 6 or 7, and can go well into the night. I've been told it's in part strategy to get people willing to agree on stuff so that they can finally get home. So
interesting.
Yeah, that's quite hard. But so you can expect, if you're an assistant doing policy work or if you're an MEP, to have some very long days, and if you have files that are hot at the moment. And what else can I say? So yes, committee weeks and group weeks for me are kind of the same, different type of meetings, but nevertheless one meeting after the other. Constituency week, you can use it more to maybe go to some conference and plan ahead and stuff like that. And then you have Strasbourg. Strasbourg is a very special week because basically you cram 4.5 days or 5 days of work into 3. So you arrive, so everybody's on the road on Monday morning. At 3 in the afternoon, the first meeting starts, let's say, on Monday. And by Thursday at 2, everything needs to be done. That means that the day starts at the very latest at 9, but that's the very latest. And then they can go on and on and on and on and on. The plenary seatings go easily until 11. Obviously, not everyone is there by that time, but let's, for example, say you have a speech in plenary. It could be that at some point in the evening, you stop working, you go to the restaurant, and then you look at your watch and you go, oh, I still have a speech, and then you go back to the parliament. So Strasbourg is very crazy. There's like one appointment after the other. You're very dependent on your assistants to orchestrate all of this and to, let's say, make it all manageable and get you a sandwich. I mean, this is really a bit of a cliche of parliamentary life is Strasbourg, because it's so intense that you don't have the time to do the most basic things, like sometimes eating. Yeah, so this would be a description of the weeks more than the days, because the days themselves are very different from one to the other.
Cool, thank you. Wow, that sounds harsh.
It is tremendously interesting, but it's also very intense. I still can recommend it. Oh, and one thing I haven't said yet. Personally, I love it here, and there's a reason for that. It's because it's very international. So if this is your kind of feel good place, like being surrounded by people and never knowing who's gonna speak which language, Brussels is exactly the right place. Like it's a very big difference to anywhere else. Like if you walk around town, the next person, you can assume they will probably speak French, probably English, but really, what is their mother tongue? Where do they come from? You don't have a clue. It works the same way within the parliament and without. And personally, I love it. But like that's for me one of the added bonuses of being here. So if you like basically seeing Europe in action, like experiencing what it is, this is really the right place to be.
Yeah, your last mention reminded me of something, and that is a question concerning the French. Is it really necessary to know it, or is English sufficient?
English is sufficient. You have an added bonus with French for in two cases. One is dealing with dealing with people you need, like the administration and somebody on the street, and stuff like that. On the other hand, most of them will actually speak English, so it's not a real issue. It is helpful because most of them will speak French natively, but they will still speak English. There's another case, though, and it's the case of people not speaking English, and that is mostly your colleagues from France. So one of the biggest delegation in the parliament is the French delegation, and well, quite a few of them don't speak English, or don't speak English very well, at least. So it is useful to know French. It's not imperative. I don't want to say this, but it is useful.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
All right. I'm going to ask one last time for questions. If there are none, then I think I'll just close because this has been a good round. We've been talking nearly an hour. So thanks for listening. I hope this was helpful. I'm going to ask PPU to put this recording online somewhere. And you can always reach out to me if you have more questions popping up in your mind later on. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much, Jill. It was really, really informative. Thank you for coming and telling us more. And I look forward to maybe see you in
Zamada.
sometime soon.
I'll
Right,
be there
thanks.
too. So
Great.
I'm so excited how this is developing at the moment in Europe and Pirates. It's very, very wow. Especially
good.
with the Czech, it's really great.
Yeah,
And the
that's really good.
And the Czech Pirates, they're in government already, and they have very good finances to support the campaign now. So it's going to be a completely different thing from last time.
Yeah, that's really cool. Okay, thanks everyone, and I'll see you around.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Oh, thanks.